Chapter 1: the self image, your key to living without limits. Nothing splendid has ever been achieved except by those who dared believe that something inside them was superior to cir- circumstances. Said by Bruce Barton. Sorry. A revolution in psychology began in the late 1960s and exploded in 1970s. When I wrote the first edition of Psychocybernetics in 1960, I was at the forefront of a sweeping change in the fields of psychology, psychiatry, and medicine. New theories, and concepts concerning the self began emerging from the work and findings of clinical psychologists practicing psychiatrists, and even cosmetic or so-called plastic surgeons like myself. New method new methods new methods grow New methods growing out of this these findings. These findings resulted in dramatic changes in personality, in health, and in basic abilities and talents. Chronic failures become successful. F students changed into straight A. Pupils with no extra tutoring. Retiring, in inhabited personalities become happy and outgoing. At the same time, I was quoted in January 1959 issue of Cosmopolitan magazine, in which T.F. James summarized these results obtained by various psychologists and MDs as follows. Understanding Understanding psychology of the self can mean the difference between success and failure, love and hate, bitterness and happiness. The discovery of the real self can rescue 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 a crumbling marriage, recreate 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 a faltering career, transform victims of personality failure on other plane. Discovering a real life, real self means the difference between freedom and the conclusions of conformity. This was barely protective of everything that has occurred in the 4 decades that followed. When Cybernetics was first published, if you visited a bookstore to obtain a copy, you might have found it nestled on an obscure shelf with only a dozen or so other so-called self-help books. Today, of course, self-help is one of the largest section in the entire bookstore. Psychologists, psych, psychiat- psychiatrists and therapists have pro pro life rated new news new specialties. Have emerged, such as sports psychologists and corporate performance coaches, and the stigma of seeking such help as disappeared to such an extent that in some circles doing so is trendy. Self-help psychology has become so popular it even has found a place in television, in for in informations infor, in informer infomercials. Once difficult, now easy. I am I am gratified that much of this Much of this modern explosions of ideas, information, and people to assist you with everything from concurrent procrastination to shaving strokes of your golf score appears to be based on psycho-cybernetics. You might say that my original work was ahead of its time. You or you or you might say that it has agreed well. Whatever you conclude, the most important thing for you personally is the fundamental promise of psycho-cybernetics has been true proven true beyond any doubt or argument. That is, once difficult, now easy. Whatever is now difficult for you, whatever may have prompted your reading of this book, can be transformed from difficult to easy through the use of certain sound sound psychological concepts, easily understood and mastered mental training techniques, and a few practical steps. Our conscious our it may be vague and ill defined to our conscious gaze. In fact, it may not be consciously recognizable at all, but it is there, complete down to the last detail. The self-image is our own conception of the sort of person I am. It has been built up from our own beliefs about ourselves. Most of these beliefs are mo- most of these beliefs about ourselves have 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 unconsciously been formed from our past experiences, our successes and failures, our humiliations, our theorems, and the way other people have reacted to us, especially in early childhood. From all this, we mentally construct a self or a picture of a self. Once an idea or a belief about ourselves goes into the picture, it becomes truth as far we personally are concerned. We do not question its validity, but proceed to act upon it just as if it were true. The self-image then controls what you can and cannot accomplish, what is difficult or easy for you, even even how others respond to you, just as certainly and scientifically as the thermostat. The thermostat controls the temperature in your home. Specifically, all your actions, feelings, behavior, even your abilities are always consistent with this self-image. Note the word always. I in short you will act like the sort of person you conceive yourself to be. More important, you literally cannot act otherwise in spite of all your conscious efforts of willpower. This is why trying to achieve something difficult with teeth teeth gritted is a losing battle. Willpower is not the answer. Self image management is. The snapback effect. The person who has a fat self-image, whose self-image claims to have a sweet tooth, to be unable to resist junk food, who cannot find the time to exercise, will be unable to lose weight and keep it off, no matter what he tries to do consciously in in opposition to that self-image. You cannot outperform or escape your self image. If you do escape briefly, you will be snapped back like a rubber band extended between two fingers, coming loose from one. The person The person who perceives himself to be failure type person will find some way to fail in spite of all his good intentions of his willpower. Even if opportunity is literally dumped in his lap, the person who conceives himself to be a victim of injustice, one who was meant to suffer, will invariably find circumstances to verify his opinions. You can you can insert any specific into this: your goal, your golf game, sales career, public speaking, weight loss, and relationships. The control of your self image is absolute and 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 pervasive. The snapback effect is universal. The image is the image is a premise, a base, or a foundation upon which your entire personality, your behavior, and even your circumstances are built. As a result, your experience seem to verify and thereby strengthen our self images, and either a vicious or a beneficent cycle, as the case may be, is set up. For example, a student who sees himself as an F-type student, or one who is dumb in mathematics, will invariably find that his report cards bears him out. He then has proof. In the same manner, a sales professional or a entrepreneur will also find that her actual experiences tend to prove that her self image is correct. Whatever is difficult for you, whatever frustrations you have in your life, they are likely proving and reinforcing something ingrained in your self image, like a groove in a record. Because of because of because of because of because of objective proof, it very seldom occur to us that our trouble lies in our self image, or our own evaluation of self, or of ourselves. Tell the student that he only thinks he cannot master algebra, and he will doubt your sanity. He has tried, and still his report card tells the story. Tell the sales agent that it is only an idea, that she cannot earn more than a certain figure, and she can prove you wrong by her order book. She knows only too well how hard she has tried and failed. Yet, as we shall see, almost miraculous changes have occurred, both in grades of students and the earning capacity of salespeople, once they were prevailed upon to change their self images. Obviously, it is not enough to say it is all in your head. In fact, that insulting. It is more productive to explain that is it is based on certain ingrained, possibly hidden patterns of thought that, if altered, will 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 free you to tap more of your potential and experience vastly different results. This brings to me the most important truth about the self image: I can be changed. I can be changed. Real limits, self-imposed limits, area underutilized potential, area of possible. See how the performance look like. Numericus, numerous case histories have shown that you are never too young or too old to change your self-image and start to live a new, amazingly different life. Editor's note: here's is here's is another illustration of how to self-image operates. Picture us living inside two boxes. The line farthest out, the solid line that represents real or realistic limits. The dotted line in the first drawing shown tightly confining represents self-imposed limits. The area between the two of two of two of your area or range of underutilized potential. As you discovered the means of strengthening and liberating your self-image, you move to dotted line closer to the solid line, permitting greater use of your true potential. If I show the picture look like this. Okay, now new section. Success from inside out, not the outside in. Success from the inside out, not outside in. One of the reasons it seems so different for a person to change habits, personality, or a way of life has been that nearly all efforts at change have been directed to the circumference of the self, to so to speak, rather than to the center. Numerous patients have said to me something like the following: if you are talking about positive thinking, I have tried that before and it does not work for me. However, a little questioning invariably brings out that these individuals employed positive thinking or attempt to employ it, either on particular external circumstances, or on some particular habit, or character defect. I will get the job. I will be more calm and relaxed in the future. This business venture will turn out right for me, and so on. But they never thought to change their thinking of the self that was accomplish these things. Jesus 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 warned us about the folly of putting a pitch of new material on an old garment, or putting new wine into old bottles. Positive thinking cannot be used effectively as a patch to the safe self or old self image. In fact, it is literally impossible to really think positively about a particular situation as long as you hold a negative concept of self. Numerous experiments have shown that once the concept of self is changed, other thing consistent with the new concept of self are accomplished easily and without strain. A system of ideas. One of the earliest and most convincing experiments along this line was conducted by the late Pre- Pre- Prescott Leakey one of the pioneers in self image psychology. Leaky le- leaky 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 concoit conceived con- leaky conceived of the personality as a system of ideas, all of which must be consistent with each other. Ideas that are inconsistent with the system are rejected, not believed and not acted on. Ideas that seem to be consistent with the system are accepted. At the very center of this system of ideas, the keystone or the base on which all else is built is the individual's self image, or his conception of himself. Leakey was a school teacher and had an opportunity to test his theory on thousands of students. He theorized that if a student had trouble learning a certain subject, it could be because from the student's point of view, it would be inconsistent for him to learn it. Leakey believed, however, that if the student could be induced to change his self definition, his learning ability should also change. This proven to be the case. One student who misspelled 55 words out of 100, and flunked so many subjects that he lost credit for a year, made a general average of 91 the next year, and become one of the best spellers in school. A girl who was dropped from one college because poor grades entered Columbia and become a straight A student. A boy who was told by a testing bureau that he had no aptitude for English won honorable mention the next year for a literary prize. The trouble with the students was not that they were dumb or lacking in basic aptitudes. The trouble was inadequate self image. I don't have a mathematical mind, or I am just naturally a poor speller. They identified with their mistakes and failures. Instead of saying I failed that test, factual and descriptive, they concluded I am a failure. Instead of saying I flunked that subject, they said I am flunked out. For those for those who are interested in learning more of Leakey's work, try to find a copy of this book, Self Consistency: A Theory of Personality. Okay. Leakey also used the same method to cure students of such habits as nail biting and stuttering. My own files contain case histories just as convincing. The woman who was so afraid of strangers that she seldom ventured out of the house, and who now makes her living as a public speaker. The salesman who had already prepared a letter of resignation because he just was not cut out for selling, and 6 months later was number one number one man on a force of 100 salespeople. The minister who was considering retirement because nerds had the pressure of preparing a sermon preparing a sermon every week were getting him down, and who now delivers delivers an average of three outside talks a week in addition to his weekly sermons, and does not know he has a nerve in his body. Following Dr. Leakey's breakthrough thinking on this subject, born from observation, as well as my own observations and thoughts chronicled chronicled in the earlier editions of this book, a mountain of more sophisticated scientific research and anecdotal evidence has led to the acceptance of the controlling self-image by most of the academic psychological community. How a plastic surgeon become interested in self psychology. This is the author's story. Offhand, offhand, there would seem to be little or no connection between surgery and psychology. Yet it was the work of plastic surgeon that first hinted at the existence of the self-image, and raised certain questions that led to important psychological knowledge. When I first began the first practice of plastic surgery many years ago, I was amazed by the dramatic and sudden changes in character and personality that often resulted when a facial defect was corrected. Changing the changing the changing the physical image in many instances appeared to create an entirely new person. In case after case, the scalpel that I held in my hand become a magic wand that transformed not only patient's appearance, but also whole life. The shy and retiring become bold and courageous. A stupid boy changed into an alert, bright youngster who went on to become an executive with a prominent firm, with a prominent firm. A salesman who had lost his touch and his faith in himself became a model of self confidence. And perhaps the most startling of all was the habitual hard hardened hardened criminal who changed almost overnight from an incorrigible who had never showed any desire to change into a model prisoner who won a parole and went on to assume a responsible role in society. Some six some six some six some 60 some 60 years ago, I reported many such histories in many book new faces, new futures, written more of my written more for my peers than the public. Following its publication, and similar articles in leading magazines, I was beset with questions by criminologists, psychologists, sociologists, and psychiatrists and psychiatrists and psychiatrists. They asked questions that I could not answer, but they did not start me on a search. Strangely enough, I learned as much from my failures as failures as from my success, if not more. It was easy to explain the successes. Sorry, the boy the boy with the two big ears who had been told that he looked like a taxi cab with both doors open. He had been ridiculed all his life, often cruelly. Association with others meant humiliation and pain. Why should not he avoid social contacts? Why should not he become afraid of people and retire into himself? Terribly afraid to express himself in any way. He became known as stupid. When his ear were correct his ears were corrected, it would seem only natural that since the cause of his embarrassment and humiliation had been removed, he should assume a normal role in life, which he did. Or consider the salesman who suffered a financial who who who, who suffered or considered the salesman who suffered a financial disfigurement as the result of an automobile accident. Each morning, when he shaved, he could see the horrible disfiguring scar on his cheek, and the grotesque and the grotesque twist to his mouth. For the first time in his life, he became painfully self-conscious. He was ashamed of himself and felt that his appearance must his appearance his appearance his appearance his appearance must be repulsive to others. The scar became an obsession with him. He was different from other people. He began to wonder what others were thinking of him. Soon his self-image was even more mutilated than his face. He began to lose confidence in himself. He became bitter and hostile. Soon, almost all his attention was directed toward himself, and his primary goal became the protection of his ego and avoidance of situations that might bring humiliation. It is easy to understand how to correction of his facial disfigurement and the restoration of a normal face would overnight change this man's entire attitude and outlook, his feelings about himself, resulting in greater success in his work. The quote, the mystery inspired me. If the scalpel was magic, why did some people who acquired new faces go right on wearing other old personalities? What about the exceptions? What about the exceptions? Those who didn't change. What about the Duchess who all her life had been terribly shy and self-conscious because of a tremendous hump in her nose. Although surgery gave her a classic nose and a face that was truly beautiful, she continued to act the part of the ugly duckling, the unwanted sister who could never bring herself to look another human being in the eye. If the scalpel itself was magic, why why did not why did it not work on the Duchess? Or 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 what about or or what about or or what about all the others who acquired new faces but went right on wearing the same personality? how to explain how to explain reaction of people who who insist who insist that who insist who insist who insist that the surgery has made no difference whatever in their in their appearance. Every plastic surgeon has had this experience and has probably and has probably been as buffeted by it as I was. No matter no matter how drastic the change in appearance in appearance may be, certain patients will insist that I look just the same as before. You did not do anything. Friends, even family may scarcely recognize them, may become enthusiastic over their newly acquired beauty. Yet yet the patients themselves insist that they can see only sight or no improvement, or in fact deny that any change at all has been made. Comparison of before and after photographs does little good, and may even arouse hostility by some strange mental alchemy by some strange mental alchemy the patient will rationalize. Of course, I can see the hump is no longer in my nose, but my nose still looks just the same. Or the scar may not show anymore, but it's still here. Still there. The scar or the scar may not show anymore, but it's still there. Scars scars sorry scars that scars that bring pride instead of shame. Scars that bring pride instead of shame. Still another clue in search of elusive self image is the fact that not all scars or disfigurements bring shame and humiliation. When I was a young medical student in Germany, I saw many students proudly wearing his saber scar, much as an American might wear the Medal of Honor. The duelists the duelists the duelists the duelists the duelists the duelists were the the duelists the duelists were the elite of college society. Of a facial scar was the badge that proved you a member in good standing. To these boys, the the acquisition of a horrible scar, the horrible scar on the cheek had the same psychological effect as the eradication of the scar from the cheek of my salesman patient. I began to see that a knife itself held no magical powers. It could be used one person to inflict a scar to inflict a scar on another to erase the scar with the same psychological results. And then the next section is the mastery of imagined ugliness. So if I summarize that, till now I read this book, I feel that this is too boring, and I need to read again to understand the concepts and ideas to and brings up ideas and brings up ideas from this book to to use that knowledge in real life and uh, get benefits from it. Where now 39 minutes, almost 40 minutes, where I read out this book. Till then, assalamu alaikum.